The pyro gateway loomed ahead like a skeletal maw of an ancient machine. Monolithic spires curved inwards, etched with centuries of neglected maintenance and the quiet graffiti of smuggler. Fractured convoys drifted through its outer edge, remnants of old patrols that had long since given up caring who passed through. From the cockpit of the cat basket, Kate sat with gloved fingers resting lightly on the controls, the glow of the ship's registry update still pulsing faintly on her console. Above the main screen, the new name hovered in obnoxious neon text, the cat basket. Bublina's logo blinked beside it, a skeletal cat curled in a basket, wreathed in stylized pink flames. It was ridiculous, but undeniably theirs now. Status check, Kate ordered calmly. Nick's voice crackled over comms from his battered delivery ship, the one still held together by frantic patches of ductwork and spite. Systems greenish, engines kind of humming, left panels twitching like my eye. His voice paused, and though the comm quality wasn't perfect, Kate could hear the wink through the transmission. The accompanying involuntary eye twitch was so regular now it had become the crew's unofficial mission metronome. Fuji's voice followed, crisp, emotionless, from the cockpit of his Hornet. Systems green, weapons primed, no unexplained fires. Bublina's cheerful buzz chimed in from the overhead console. NASA secured. Medical supplies ready. Ladder hatch still statistically lethal. Kate smirked faintly and toggled external viewports. The bone marrow drifted in the distance, sleek and ominous in silver, her name painted unevenly across the hull. The trio of ships hung poised near the gateway, awaiting the next phase. Ahead, Pyro beckoned, harsh, lawless, riddled with anomalies, and infested, if reports were true, with Valakar. The great sand beast tunneled beneath the surface, hunting vibrations like sharks in an endless desert sea. Nick's voice came back over the comms, forced casualness laced with nerves. Remind me again why Fuji and I are scouting ahead? I thought we were in the high-value personnel category. Wink. Kate's golden eyes narrowed, but her voice remained level. Because Fuji can kill everything, and you attract bugs. Fuji's dry tone followed immediately. Also, statistically, Nick draws at least 4 glitches per planetary landing, useful for testing hazard zones. There was a pause. Nick sighed, his next words punctuated by yet another reflexive wink. Fine, but when the sandworms eat my cargo hold, I'm haunting this crew. Kate toggled the comms, her smirk deepening. Proceed. Moments later, the 2 smaller ships broke formation. Fuji's Hornet veered first, cutting across the gateway's perimeter with silent grace. Behind him, Nick's ship followed in a slightly wobbling arc, a trail of pixelated dust glitches flickering off his thrusters, evidence of the persistent 4.2 bugs that had chosen him as their vessel of torment. The gateway's control towers drifted closer. Static crackled across channels as the ships entered the outer boundary zone. Telemetry holding, Fuji reported. Nick muttered under his breath, half the words distorted by static and eye spasms. Kate adjusted their trajectory, holding the cat basket just outside range. Bublina's voice pinged again, more subdued now, calibrated for tactical updates. Outer perimeter scan nominal. Valakar surface movement uncertain. Could be dunes, could be something bigger. Kate's fingers hovered over the controls, watching Fuji and Nick spiral through the gateway's vast maw. We follow when they clear the marker, she said, eyes sharp with anticipation. Pyro awaited beyond, a system built on the promise of chaos, survival, and teeth beneath the sand. Interlude. The watch arrives. The day began like most good disasters, with blue lights, loudspeakers, and the growing suspicion that they'd finally irritated reality itself. Hovering ahead of the cart basket, silhouetted against the pyro gateway, was a colossal police dreadnought. Ancient, bristling with bolted-on systems, it bore the faded sigil of the Watch, a symbol of scales, crossed batons, and a quiet threat of bureaucracy gone feral. Kate sat in the command chair, arms folded, brow arched. Bublina's voice filtered through the comms, chipper as ever. They say they're here to preserve narrative stability and uphold interdimensional decorum. Nick leaned in from his console, involuntary eye twitch punctuating every sentence. Do they know they've already broken narrative walls? Wink, twitch. The comms flared to life with the voice of Commander Vibes, raspy with tired authority. All ships, heave to. You're under arrest, but, well, something. We'll work out the paperwork later. Next to him, the voices of Captain Carrot, impossibly cheerful, and Captain Angua, grim and professional, filtered through with practiced efficiency. The faint mutterings of Nobby Nobs and Sergeant Colon bickered in the background like a dysfunctional radio play. Kate sighed. Detain us for what? Possible narrative contamination, Vimes responded, sounding bone-weary. Your lot have been hopping between patch notes and genres like it's a picnic. Angua's voice cut in, sharper. We don't permit narrative walls breaking down. It causes inconsistencies. Bublina's screen flickered with an exaggerated shrug emoji. They don't realize they're the inconsistency. Kate's eyes narrowed. Let's not correct them. The cell aboard the dreadnought was metallic, bleak, and smelled faintly of scorched toast. The crew sat in silence, wondering if they were individually having a stroke. Nick paced near the wall, twitching like a broken marionette. Fuji sat with arms crossed, face unreadable. Kate leaned against the bulkhead, one hand on her helmet, lost in thought. Kate leaned against the bulkhead, one hand on the infamous cat helmet, lost in thought. It was Nick who broke the quiet. Remember the last time we got locked up? Wink. Kate's expression darkened, but amusement ghosted behind her eyes. Bloom, she muttered. The beach. Fuji exhaled softly, shaking his head. Flashback, the Bloom disaster. Bloom was meant to be downtime. Planet of crystalline beaches, pink-hued sunsets, and overpriced resort towns. Kate and Fuji had chosen a quiet bay nestled between dunes, their ships parked in a neat, photogenic row. Kate's cutlass black of the time, sturdy, reliable, always cursed. Fuji's Origin 325A, sleek, minimalist, disapproving of the cutlass's entire existence. They had set up chairs, cracked open drinks, and were mid-conversation when the atmosphere above them screamed. A blazing dot descended from orbit, growing exponentially larger, and far faster than sensible physics allowed. Kate's brow furrowed. Fuji's expression remained flat. The dot roared in on a collision course. It's him, Kate sighed. Moments later, a rented Crusader C1 Spirit, engines overclocked to the point of existential regret, slammed into the sand with spectacular force. It cartwheeled, cratered the beach, ploughed through Kate's cutlass like paper, and finally embedded itself nose first into the dunes beside Fuji's Origin, taking most of one wing with it. Silence reigned, apart from distant birds fleeing for their lives. Nick crawled from the wreckage, coughing, his hair singed. Hey, he called weakly, blinking. Found you guys. Wink. Kate stared at the smouldering ruin of her ship. Fuji quietly assessed the damage to his hull. "I'm going to kill him," Kate declared. It was at that moment the planetary police arrived. Back in the cell, the crew sat in quiet reflection, the hum of the dreadnought vibrating beneath them. Nick scratched his chin, shrugging. "In my defense," he said, eye twitching relentlessly, "I arrived precisely on time." Fuji didn't speak. Kate smiled faintly, dangerous and sharp. "We'll survive this one too," she muttered, eyes glowing softly in the low light. Above them, the interdimensional watch prepared their paperwork, oblivious to the irony. Bublina's official debrief. Narrative breach. Log entry, stardate. Probably irrelevant given time's collapsing, but whatever. So there we were, minding our own chaos, preparing for heroic worm-based missions, and definitely not breaking space-time when the cops showed up. Not just any cops, the big ones, dreadnought-sized, bureaucratically aggressive, and staffed entirely by fictional refugees from some universe we didn't even officially subscribe to. Commander Vimes, tired, dangerous, powered by coffee and existential dread. Captain Carrot, built like a genetically modified Labrador with civic responsibility baked into his DNA. Angua, sharp, suspicious, probably smells fear. And Nobby Nobs and Sergeant Colon, who I'm 87% sure are both glitches rendered accidentally sentient. They accused us, the Bone Marrow and the Cat Basket, of narrative wall breaches, which is fancy cop speak for "you lot are blending genres and realities and it's making admin complicated." Kate, our terrifying goth queen, tried diplomacy. Fuji silently judged the room. Nick twitched uncontrollably, his left eye winking like a faulty proximity sensor, which, let's be honest, wasn't helping. End result? Jail cell. Again. While we were locked up, Nick sparked an emotional flashback, because every decent imprisonment comes with one. Bloom, pretty planet, sparkly beaches. Kate and Fuji were there relaxing and experiencing fleeting happiness. Then Nick arrived, in a rented ship, at nearly light speed, straight into the sand, threw Kate's cutlass black into Fuji's origin. I remember because I logged the entire event under the tag Lesion, user-induced catastrophe, style idiotic. The police arrested him for reckless endangerment. Fuji's plan survived. Kate's patience did not. Fast forward back to present. We're locked up by fictional characters who themselves shouldn't even exist if narrative barriers work properly. So, poetic justice? Irony? Glitchy cosmic loop? Who cares? Mission status? Arrested. Check. Humiliated. Minor check. Awaiting worm hunting. Pending. Nick's eye twitch. Ongoing. End of report. Mood. Pink. The patching. The Bone Marrow crew had just barely escaped narrative incarceration at the hands of a Discworld-themed dreadnought, and were once again free to roam. Spirits were high. The mission to investigate the Valakar sandworms was back on the docket. The stars lay ahead. And then, patch 4.2.1 dropped. It came like an omen. With the kind of optimistic fanfare only the doomed could ever muster, Nick installed the patch first. 4.2.1 installed. Servers running again, he muttered, hunched over a terminal in the Cat Basket's mess bay. His voice had the kind of tone that would curdle space milk. Kate glanced over from across the room, raising a brow as Nick added, "Dogshite performance. Worst I've ever seen. Might be the server load. Everyone and their nan logging in to see the worms, maybe." "I wouldn't recommend logging in," Fuji added grimly from the corner where he was tending a basil sprig that had somehow survived the prison cell. "I took a mission. killed one guy. Second wave turned up, and I exploded. For no reason. Then the game crashed. Kate blinked. Exploded. Just poof, like a sneeze of flame and regret. Nick nodded. Also, he said with grave importance, when I got my ship back, it was in factory stock config. All my upgrades have been dumped to storage. Took me half an hour just to get my armor bits back onto my avatar. Every time I dragged an item over, it pinged back like I'd poked an angry librarian. And the kicker? He leaned in, face deadly serious. I flew all the way to the wormhole, no jump module installed. Kate looked away, the dead silence that followed bearing the weight of 1,000 suppressed screams. Then she stood up and left the room without a word. The next time anyone saw her, she was deep in the bowels of the Bone Marrow, elbows deep in the exposed guts of the ship's core, hair pinned back, surrounded by diagnostic panels, glowing wiring, and a heavy scent of ionized coffee. "What are you doing?" Graham asked cautiously from the doorway. Kate, eyes aglow with the golden fire and caffeine, looked up from a console. "Building a new AI." There was a long pause. "You're what?" he asked again. "She's called Argo Omega," Kate replied, completely serious. "She will understand context, nuance, and irony. She will be able to identify sarcasm from 25 kilometers away. She will be multilingual, multivalent, and multiplicitous. She's also got a 40% chance of thermonuclear core detonation if she misparses a question," Nick added, his left eye twitching involuntarily as he leaned in with a grin. Kate stared at him. "Don't wink at me." "I didn't mean to. It's a twitch." Fuji, from above on the catwalk, peered down. "It does make you look like Commissioner Dreyfus, from the Pink Panther movies. Every word like a loaded threat." Nick gave an involuntary wink. "I appreciate that, but I haven't seen those movies." "Stop it," Kate warned. Back in the main living quarters, Graham was re-downloading all of his flight stick drivers for the third time, because 4.2.1 had somehow decided they were illegal now. He was deeply considering becoming a full-time racing commentator again. "Maybe I'll do a podcast," he muttered into his fourth mug of synth tea. Meanwhile, Boblina, detached from her wall mount and drifting with purpose through the lounge, tried to lighten the mood by projecting vintage advertisements from 2802 onto the ceiling. "Everything is fine, nothing is on fire, Kate's definitely not testing her unstable code in a live environment. Would you like to hear a jingle from a cola that causes tooth disintegration?" No one responded. And so, the crew of the Bone Marrow and the Cat Basket entered another period of enforced downtime. The universe, like the game engine it was tethered to, could not currently be trusted. But deep in the ship, the AI core pulsed softly, waiting, thinking, and occasionally flickering a warning that read, "Intention unclear. Executing default response."